So this was an interesting one. It's one that we've been discussing in our family. We're all in the same family. Stop Killing Games is a really interesting one from games development point of view and legal view. Before we dig into that, if you're watching or listening to this, please follow us. Click on the links below. They're appearing over Alice now. And also follow us on podcast, Apple Podcasts and things. Please click follow or subscribe, particularly, and comment, particularly if you like us. But we want to hear from everybody. Yeah. Alice, have you heard of the SKG? It is a movement spearheaded by YouTuber Ross Scott, which champions consumer rights and this new thing called game preservation. It's basically it's sparked when things like companies like Ubisoft delist, particularly in this case The Crew, a game, and that digital purchases should grant perpetual access. They're basically saying we've owned something, we purchased something, and we should perpetually own it.
I haven't heard of the Stop Killing Games movement, but I've heard culturally about this kind of backlash to generally subscription models, not just for gaming. But I think I did hear that I think it was Ubisoft had said to their customers that when a new version of a game comes out, you must destroy the old version, which it's like if we think back to sort of 2005 when you'd own your DVDs, that would be like, we've made a new version of Star Wars, so you need to get your DVD of Star Wars and destroy it and buy the new version.
Emily, I mean, I want to come back to actually what that means, because I find that hysterical. But what Alice is referring to is that Ubisoft has drawn a significant backlash for an updated clause in its EULA, end user license agreement, that requires players to immediately uninstall the product and destroy all copies of the product if Ubisoft terminates access to the game. Before we talk about sort of potential methods of destruction, just legally from a point of view. So I don't get this, but you buy something, you own it, and then it's required. Obviously, I know as a social engineer, I'm not a social engineer. everyone. I'm not going to do any social engineering. To some extent, my social engineering is all about how I can get more chocolates after dinner. But as a software engineer, there is obviously considerable issues with maintaining software over time, and the other side of this, the sort of games producers are pushing back on those demands, saying there's significant financial and logistical hurdles, and that mandating indefinite server maintenance or offline conversions for online only titles would be prohibitively expensive, and the old trope was stifle innovation if you've got to keep maintaining this old stuff. So we've got this polemic happening at the moment, but just from a legal point of view, where are we at?
I think it's a really interesting hybridity between, going into a shop and buying something, buying a book. You own that book, and somebody might discover it in your house in 100 years' time, and it's still your thing.
In fact, you can leave it, can't you, in your will to somebody?
Your chattels, your bits and pieces, a flower vase,
Alice,
a physical object. Is
that clear to you? You buy something in a shop and it's yours.
Well, I think it's the creator of Minecraft has recently, he didn't come up with it, but he is parroting what has been going around, which is, if buying isn't owning, pirating isn't stealing.
Ooh, controversial.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so I do have. So I've got a couple of things to say to this, and then we'll come back to you. So I did some work for UNESCO a few years ago, maybe over a decade ago, and their cultural unit was interested in the preservation of digitally born data.
Mm.
So if you think about your childhood games, if you could find them now, could you play them? Would you be able to find something that was capable of playing them? And then, of course, would they be updated? Would they be still playable? So the software is such a and particularly internet-enabled games are such a complex thing to maintain. You have to look after the security, you have to look after the playability, and so there is an investment that the manufacturer gets. But what I think is happening at the moment is a bit of a mess between the pure, you go into a shop, you buy a game on a physical thing, then it's yours. You probably forget about it and throw it away and throw away the player, but that's just life, versus the subscription model, which is you're just really renting it. And then as long as the manufacturer wants to make it available, you can play it, but the deal is you're paying a bit per month and then you get the service. What is interesting, you were mentioning this, Alice, just before we started, was what about films that you buy on a streaming platform? You think, I love this film, I want to watch it again and again, and then the film is no longer available on the platform, and it's like, poof, it's gone. And I think our whole concept of like what it means to own something versus renting it are really challenged in this, and the industry is sort of moving towards subscription only, but can't quite do it because people want to own things.
I have something to say about this, and I think we're in a rabbit hole of licensing, subscription, purchasing and stuff, and I think the manufacturers are dumb here. I think as a marketer, I think they're missing a huge trick. They're making a promise with their community. They're asking their community to build an emotional relationship with their games and their world. And these people feel they own this anyway. They're there with their friends. It is their community. It is like saying we're going to smash down a shop, a post office in your village, which is where you all meet, because we can't support the post office.
Or we're going to come into your house and take the physical DVDs off your shelf and take them away.
Yeah.
And, when it gets to, I think it's absurd when it all starts to talk about one subscription model and financial and logistical hurdles. So I really have, I really don't like the sort of online friction that's happening, the polemic. It's become, again, another really extreme debate. And I think and it's kind of a theme of other things that we're talking about.
I want, in a way that there are, I think people have been talking about the right to repair, haven't they? So couldn't there be a way that the manufacturers are going, well, we're done with this product, it's not really selling, we do recognise that there's a group of hardcore fans and gamers who want to be able to maintain this. We're going to either open source it or give you guys the right to repair it, or have some sort of way.
They're scared because the community will take it away.
Yeah,
you think
they
about
might make a big success of it.
But anyway, this will go on and on. I mean, I just think, when you start sort of going, where we can't. I mean, I find it hysterical, the idea of asking people to destroy something. It's a sort of like, kids, time to go to bed now. Uninstall the software and destroy it.
And that to me is just like the legal department just
got
a little bit overexcited.
My last thing I want to say about this is, compared to Ubisoft, Nintendo have always been about legacy media and keep. The N64 is really old, but it's still the vintageness, and they really prioritize backwards compatibility.
Lovely.
Like with the Switch 2 that's just come out, you can play all the old Switch games on it.
And people love the kind of 8-bit resolution. They love the
old
of it.
Stuff, and they celebrate because vintage.
I think that's exactly the right way, and it's sort of back to the UNESCO point. Is like, where everything that we're experiencing is online, you feel like, oh yes, I can get everything, and then it's suddenly gone and you can't get it anymore. That actually, although we think about or care for what you say or do online because it's like there forever, it really isn't. And then when it's gone, it's just gone in a way that we haven't really come to terms with.
Thank you very much.